The following is a paid advertisement. The views expressed are the sole responsibility of the advertiser.
Put the power back in your hands. This is Behind the Law with attorney Justin Clark.
Welcome to Behind the Law. Happy weekend to you. A new audience today. We're so happy to join you here on the station. Allow me to introduce you to my beautiful co-host, Makaila Nichols. Makaila, how are you?
I'm great.
You are not a lawyer. I am a lawyer. You're here to answer the questions of the people at home, correct?
Maybe it's something. You try to take my people thing, and
Go
that's
ahead,
fine.
do it.
No, I speak for the people.
That's right. Here's what we're going to do today. We'll kick it off with our good buddy John Ledford, Fortress Wealth Group. He's going to talk about tax and tax strategies. In the second part of the show, I'm going to talk about those of you that do owe taxes or you have unfiled returns with the IRS. Very scary time in people's lives. We're going to tell you how to overcome those issues as well. 321-282-1055. We'll be here live to answer any questions that you may have. I'm excited.
I am too.
New station, same you.
Yeah, new people.
New people.
Same you. Same legal stuff.
Beautiful necklace, by the way.
Thank you.
Where'd you get that?
From Casa Leone, my favorite jeweler.
Yeah, here's what we'll do. A very special message from our friends at Casa Leone. Behind the Law continues. And here we are at Casa Leone Jewelers. I'm wearing my beautiful watch from here. You have a necklace, earrings.
And a ring.
And a ring. Oh, wow. You're
Michael M.
And we buy all of our jewelry here at Casa Leone, and we do so because of trust. They've been doing this since 1946, Makaila, and it takes a lot of trust to be able to stay in business that long. Proud to be joined by the owner of Casa Leone. Renee is here. Renee, how important is your client's trust to you?
It is extremely important. And this is something that we have worked very, very hard to achieve and to gain loyalty from our customers.
I see all of these five-star reviews everywhere. It's pretty amazing. Tons of reviews.
That's because we do protect our name and our reputation extremely well.
Yeah. You do a little bit of everything here, it seems. You have wedding jewelry, you've got engagement rings, wedding rings, watches, but you permanent jewelry is pretty exciting.
I stole your thunder, sorry.
You did, I know.
Sorry.
I don't know if I like that or not. But you do custom jewelry here as well.
We do. We have our studio, and we have Pedro on a computer. He can design just about anything you can think of. And we have a machine that $55,000 machine that'll create any wax that we want to cast on.
He's done it for my mom.
I know. So, she loved it too.
Yeah, that's good.
Doing a great job here. Obviously, we will always continue to shop here. I put a QR code on the screen right now. Take your phone out, scan it, and do yourself a favor. Visit Casa Leone Jewelers today. So as we talk about taxes today, our firm again handles your tax issues all the time. But what I've noticed is a lot of people who have tax problems really shouldn't have them at all. And in fact, if you have been making some wealth, you're a business owner, there are things that you can do to use tax advantages through your ability to build wealth as well. There's one person in this town, if you ask me, who is the best, the absolute best when it comes to tax strategy, and especially as you're building wealth and how do you use the taxes to your advantage, and that is the CEO of Fortress Wealth Group, John Ledford. John, well, new audience here. They're happy to see you. I hope they know how lucky they are to have you here.
Thank you.
We certainly do. But it's baffling to me that a lot of these big box investment firms that you see on TV literally don't talk tax strategy at all. When I first met you, that was the first thing you said, is how tax savings create so much wealth down the road.
Absolutely. It's fascinating. You know, taxes are our largest bill. And it doesn't matter if you make $10,000 a year, $10 million a year. Your biggest bill is to the IRS. I was at a seminar when I was 19 years old. My mom took me to a seminar, and the guy stood in the front of the room and he said, "How many people have a CPA?" And everybody raised their hand. And he said, "How many people pay taxes?" And everyone raised their hand. And he said, "How many of your CPAs pay taxes?" And everyone raised their hand. And he said, "Why are you going to those guys to learn how to save on taxes?"
Exactly.
And it was a great moment as a 19-year-old kid to shift my thinking that, hey, someone needs to be minding the store as it relates to tax strategy, which I'm not a CPA, I'm not an accountant, but I am a tax strategist, and we spend a lot of time helping our clients achieve greater wealth by applying appropriate tax strategy. It's the thing that we do that gets me more excited than anything else that we do.
Yeah, and if you have any questions about tax strategy. I'm putting a QR code on the screen right now that will direct you directly to John, and you can ask him any questions about this at all. I'd be happy to meet with you. But it is so important. And when do we really start preparing for tax season when it comes to building wealth?
Yeah, so for us, it's an all-year event, and for most clients that we work with, it needs to be an all-year event because things are changing rapidly, and we have a lot of explosive growth going on in Central Florida. So people that were doing well that are now doing amazing, or maybe you were doing amazing and now you're not doing so well, whatever the change is, all requires a fresh look. But, you know, we look at things really in light of three different lenses, and for the folks who are listening to the show, they're what I'd call structural tax strategies. So questions I get sometimes would be, I'm a sole proprietor, should I be an LLC, should I be an S-Corp, should I be a partnership? Those are structural decisions that dramatically impact the amount of taxes that you might pay depending on how much you make and how you receive income. What most people would be shocked to know is if you're a solopreneur, let's say, and you make $100,000 a year, it is fairly simple by applying some very relevant, very legal, very time-tested strategies to reduce your net income down to zero. You can contribute to a retirement plan. You can use something called the Augusta rule. You can employ your children. You layer together 4 or 5 of these strategies that the IRS has blessed and said we fully approve, and all of a sudden, instead of paying $31,000 a year in taxes, which is about what you'd pay at 100 grand, you're paying zero. Almost overnight, almost instantaneously. And so how we structure things is super important. Next thing we look at is what about what I call deductive strategies. So a deduction would be like a 401k plan. It would be potentially business use of a home. Potentially it would be how you purchase an automobile. All these different things that can drive down and drive down and drive down your taxable income. So we look at structure, we look at deductions, and the last thing we do, which I get most excited about, is what I call accelerative tax strategies. That may not even be a real word, but we'll just go for it for the moment.
Yeah, we can make it up.
But that's how do I invest dollars and get more than $1 of benefit back? And one real simple one, I was driving here and this car sat next to me, and it was a brand new AMG giant Mercedes box. What are those things called? The big box Mercedes?
The G-Wagon.
G-Wagon.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So a G-Wagon pulls up next to me. It's about a $200,000 car. Okay. Now, everyone doesn't need a $200,000 car, and I'm not advocating you go buy one. But if you want one, the way you don't want to buy a G-Wagon is as a personal use vehicle. Why? Because a $200,000 purchase on a net after-tax basis is going to cost you $340,000 to buy that G-Wagon. So let me blow your mind for a moment.
Right.
Let's say you own a business and you want that G-Wagon and you have a legitimate reason to own that G-Wagon in your business. My wife, for instance, is a designer, decorate, real estate investor, has just spent the last year renovating and decorating our new office. Every day she's in her business vehicle for business use. Let's say I wanted to buy her that G-Wagon. As a business owner, I buy that G-Wagon. It doesn't cost me $340,000. It doesn't even cost me $200,000. Why? Because when I buy that vehicle in my business, use it more than 50% of the time for legitimate business purposes, I'm going to get a check back from the IRS for $64,000. My net cost to buy the G-Wagon is about $130,000. $200,000 smarter than my neighbor who bought it for personal use. Let me go one step further. What if I finance it? What if I finance it and I pay $12,000 throughout the year in car payments? I still get to deduct the whole thing. The G-Wagon cost me $12,000 year one, cost my neighbor $340,000. I've created a massive amount of additional wealth, delta between me and my neighbor, just in one strategy, just with buying a G-Wagon. It's that simple sometimes. It's who you are, what you're about, how you spend money, what you want to do and spend money, and how we can design a tax strategy around it to allow you to have more control over my favorite word, which is your social capital. Because that's really what tax is.
So hang on. Okay, so
you said G-Wagon. I knew she had
got excited. She had a follow-up question.
But
yes.
like, how is it when I come to see you? Do I say, hey, I want this car? Like, how does all this go? Because I mean, this is great to talk about,
Sure.
but like, how do we kind of get to that point?
Absolutely. So there's two answers, and the first answer is if you're listening to the show, and I know we're on a new station. So the first 5 folks who reach out to our office, I think there's a QR code, but the first 5 people that reach out, we'll do a free initial tax plan for you. We'll do it for your audience, gratis on us. us, we'll put it all together. But how it typically works is we would schedule an initial interview. It's usually 30 minutes in length. And I have a laundry list of questions I walk through. And it's basically designed to figure out who are you, what are you about, how much do you earn, how do you spend money, that kind of thing. What do you want to accomplish? After that initial consultation, we send a follow-up email that says, based upon the schematics of our call, this is your income, current tax liability. We believe, based upon the strategies we employ, we could turn this into this, which is always a reduction in most cases of 20 to 50% of a tax liability. Meaningful large numbers. So then you would engage us, you would send us a bunch of documentation, we look at your tax returns, all kind of stuff about you. My team goes through that kind of A to Z, and we build a customized tax plan for you that we then sit down and walk you through and say, hey, here's the 19 things we identified that you could use to save money. Let's walk through them one at a time in nauseating detail, because I want people to understand what they are. And so we walk through them in nauseating detail, and when we're done, you tell me, I like 1, I like 4, 7 excites me, 14 I would never do. We just walk through the laundry list, and you tell me and my team what makes sense to you, what doesn't, where you might need more education, and then we finalize a plan, and then we help you implement it.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Why are other investment advisors and investment planners, whatever you want to say, why are they not as focused on tax savings as you are?
So I think there's a couple reasons. First of all, when I left that seminar that I talked about earlier, I went to the library, which we used to have. I don't know if we still have libraries anymore. I'm confused, right? But I went to a library where we used to have all the tax publications, and I grabbed every one of them and I read the tax code. So I'm one of the few people that I know has actually read the tax code. Now then it was probably 2,000 pages. Today it's like 40,000. I could never read today's tax code. But I spent a lot of time because I realized from what the gentleman said who led the seminar, this is everyone's biggest bill, which also means something interesting to me. It's my biggest bill too. Right? And so I wanted to figure out, how do I win at the tax game? And so that's the first part of it. The second part of it is that if you're working with a big box store advisor, they're not allowed by contract to actually give tax advice. Now it's kind of funny because if you go to name whatever they are, ABC advisor, and you say, should I put money in an IRA? And they say to you, yeah, you should put money in an IRA, and if you put in $6,000 in a 40% tax bracket, you're going to get a $2,400 tax benefit, cash on cash. Well, that's tax planning and tax advice, but the broker-dealers say that's okay. But ultimately what they tell the advisors is you're not allowed to give tax advice. So the reason for that is the big box stores are only interested in most cases in strategies in which they derive a benefit from.
Right.
And so if there's a strategy where they might derive a benefit, they might provide a laundry list to those same advisors who they've told they can't give tax advice and say, however, these 5 things you could talk about. But if it's not these 5 things, you can't talk about them. And what I say to those guys over and over and over is that even if they're great, and I mean great, and there are some great people in this town for some of those big box stores. Even if they're great, they use that much of the tax code to their client's advantage, where there's that much opportunity out there. It's just the reality of our industry, unfortunately.
Every person in this studio right now, and you at home, you know last year I did 7%. I made 9%. I lost 2%. Everybody knows that number.
Sure.
No one knows what percentage they saved by saving on taxes.
It's true. It's true. It's true. No one knows but me. And so it's interesting because one of the things my partner Cole says, there's 2 conversations we never have with our clients. Number 1 is about performance, and number 2 is about our fees. And here's the reason why. If you make $1 million, I'm going to use one client in particular all the time. He's our go-to. One client who makes $1 million a year. In every conversation, and had $1 million invested with us, every conversation was about what we call my mutual fund's better than your mutual fund. And so, and it's always, it's a standoff, right? We're ready to pull, and and it always goes the same way. It's like Vanguard XYZ was up, 13%. You have me in a fund, blah blah blah, that was up, 12.9%. That 0.1%. It's this Mexican standoff, and it happens all the time. And so what we did with this particular client is we changed his thinking. We took him from an employee making $1 million a year to a business owner making $1 million a year, employed tax strategy and saved him $200,000 on a net basis. So here's what never happens with Rick, ever again and anytime since. If you have $1 million invested, and I've saved you $200,000 a year that we're going to do over and over, rinse and repeat, I've just added 20% of net return to your portfolio. So I don't want to have another conversation about performance because it doesn't matter now. It's irrelevant. And I never want to have a conversation about our fees because our fees are an absolute bargain relative to the value that we're creating. And so, again, my partner Cole does a much better job of illustrating that, but that's what we see with our clients over and over. We do create along the way what we call a tax letter that we send out to their CPA, their other advisors, the whole deal. It lines out all of the strategies that we've implemented throughout the year, the specific allocation, the tax savings, and the whole deal, so we can calculate client by client what is their net tax savings from doing business with us.
You blew us away today, buddy.
You always do. He always does.
That was ridiculous. That was really good. John Ledford, thank you so much, pal. Good to see you as always. Do you see why we have him on?
He's a smart cookie.
Thank you.
Give us a call right now if you have other questions for him. 321-282-1055. He is absolutely amazing. Let's say you haven't called John in the past, though, and you are stuck with IRS debt. What do you do about it as Behind the Law continues? Did you know that filing for bankruptcy can help you lower your mortgage or car payments or potentially help you eliminate your IRS or credit card debt? I'm attorney Justin Clark. If you find yourself living paycheck to paycheck, call me now or visit youhavepower.com for a free consultation. Do I ever have a very special gift for you today? Compliments our good friends over at Universal Roof and Contracting. 15% off your roofing job. The roof is the most important part of your house. No doubt about it. Welcome my good friends as always, Justin and Corey. Hi, how are you today?
Good, man, good. Thank you.
The roof is the most important part of the house, but sometimes deciding who your roofing company is going to be is the most important decision as well. Culture is everything.
Sure.
When determining who's going to do your roofing job, Universal, the culture over there blows me away. Trustworthy. Tell me about the culture at Universal.
Yeah, I mean, 30 years in the making, right? Family-owned, veteran-owned, same name and ownership over the past 3 decades. We're so proud to be so rooted in Orlando, and we have offices in Jacksonville and Southwest Florida, but the honest approach, the integrity we carry, working transparently with insurance companies and homeowners alike. I mean, we approach roofing the way an honest company really should.
Trusted by some of the biggest sports teams in Florida as well.
That's right. That's right. We this past season we were the one of the partners with the Jacksonville Jaguars, which was awesome. They had a great season this year too. And then just coming next month, the XFL, the Orlando Guardians. We are the official roofer for the Orlando Guardians, so we're excited to go out to those games and see everybody there. So it'll be great.
A roof can be expensive. You created great programs to make this roof not cost prohibitive for me.
Yeah, I mean, last thing we're going to do is take food off people's plates to afford a roof. So we have a ton of flexible financing plans that just keeps things very liquid for homeowners, even if they don't want to use their own money, even if they have it at the time, you know, so we offer that as well for every roof replacement.
I have this QR code on the screen right now. Get your phone out or go to their website, but the QR code will go directly to Justin and Corey, and literally you get 15% off. But guys, you're going to come to my house and tell me what I really need, honestly.
Absolutely, yeah. Free inspection, first of all. It does cost nothing for us to come out. We're going to sit down with you, hear what you like about your roof, what you don't like about your roof, what problems you've had, and come up with a custom scope of work that makes sense for you.
Always a pleasure to see you both. There's only one company we trust when it comes to roofing. That is Universal Roof and Contracting. Welcome back to the show. And a lot of you, especially those of you that are self-employed, have experienced a time where you owed money to the IRS. And let me tell you something. It's a scary time. They can come take your money. They don't have to sue you. They come levy your bank account. They garnish your wages. They can do all of that. So it's scary. You also are afraid, am I going to go to jail because I owe money to the IRS? It's a legitimate fear. Sometimes they do put people in jail. Very, very rarely. It's also scary, though, for people who have not filed tax returns in a while. And Makaila's like, oh, Justin, why wouldn't you file tax returns? What an idiot. It happens all the time, and here's what really happens often. You start a new business, and you're so focused on getting the business up and running, finding employees, paying the bills, you're like, oh, I'll get to the taxes next year or next year. This happens all the time. Look, don't feel like you were alone. It does happen quite a bit. But what do you do when you get put in that position? And you haven't been in that position, so you don't understand how scary it can be for people when the IRS starts sending you letters. It's scary. The IRS agent might knock on your door, which they can do. It's a scary time. Here's the good news for you. And again, you might have questions about this that you want to ask me off the air. That's fine. A QR code is on the screen for the firm, or you can call the phone number on the screen and I'll talk to you off the air, 321-282-1055. Here's the biggest surprise, and most people think that this cannot help you with your IRS debt, but it can. Bankruptcy. If you have IRS debt that is more than 3 years old, bankruptcy wipes it out. Completely and totally wipes it out. It's complicated. You want to talk to a real expert about it, obviously. But indeed, bankruptcy can wipe out your IRS debt. So that's number one and the easiest. But there are also other things that you can do with the IRS. You're smiling. Why?
Nothing.
What's going on?
I'm just learning all this information.
You're soaking it in?
I am.
Okay. You were kind of giving me a look.
No, I mean, you haven't taken a beat.
No. That's what it is?
Yeah.
All right.
Keep going. Go ahead.
Here are other things that you can do. So a lot of people maybe have owed American Express money at times, and they fell on hard times and wanted to settle with American Express. The IRS has a process to settle with them as well. You owe $100,000 in IRS debt. You can oftentimes do what's called an offer in compromise. Fancy term for settlement. Takes like a year and a half, sometimes 2 years, because the IRS is very, very, very slow. But you can oftentimes settle your IRS debt. The good thing about it is while you're working on a settlement or offer in compromise, they're not going to come after you. You don't have to worry about them coming into your bank account and taking your money. So offer in compromise or settlement is a wonderful way to resolve your IRS debt. Yes, ma'am?
I don't want to interrupt you.
No, please. That's what you're here
So
for.
when do you realize like you're at this point? Are you getting like a bunch of letters? Is someone at my door? Like, how do I know?
Yeah, so here's the funny thing about the IRS is sometimes it takes them 3, 4, 5, 6 years to catch up with people. And so there are two types of people out there right now. People who haven't filed their returns, people who have filed and owe money. So it's two separate things. I've had people in my office that haven't filed a return in 7 years, 10 years, and haven't even gotten a letter from the IRS.
But wouldn't you just like suggest to like the person at home to get like a CPA to help you with that?
Yes, and sometimes actually the easiest client for us is someone who hasn't filed in 7 or 8 years, because we can go back and get all of these transcripts and see what the IRS can see exactly, and then go back and do those tax returns for them based on the IRS's number. So I see it. I see the face. I see your face all the time when you come in. And you're like, I'm so scared to be here. I've wanted to come for a year and a half. I see you on TV, but I've been too scared to come in. And then I see their face though when they leave after the problem is solved, and it's almost a different human being, because what goes on when you have a lot of debt like this, especially IRS debt, is you can't sleep at night. You're rolling around on your pillow. You're flipping your pillow over because you're so stressed out. You know, you have a job to focus on. You've got kids, you have a family, and that stuff's important, but you can't focus on the important things in your life because you're so stressed out about the debt. It's a real thing, but there are real things you can do to fix these problems. So settlement or offer in compromise, number one. Also an installment agreement. What is an installment agreement? It's a payment plan. So you pay the IRS over time. No big deal. While you're paying them over time, they're not going to come after you. They're not going to try to collect. You feel like you're doing the right thing. You get an affordable payment per month. Everybody's happy. An installment agreement is a great way to resolve these issues. Another thing I see a lot, especially with people newly yes, please.
So with the payment plan.
I like this.
Well, I just don't want to interrupt you because
I
you
like
just keep going. So anyway, you know, the payment plan, like
Yes.
for my taxes,
Installment
I pay,
agreement, you got it.
installment. I pay quarterly. So let's say I'm like way behind and I'm in a really bad situation. Is it like this year's plus that? Like
You can do that. I mean, if you fall behind, yes, and then a year later they're going to say you owe us 20 grand or 10 grand or whatever it is, and then you say, oh, could I do a penalty abatement, meaning wipe away the penalties, and then pay you this 10 grand I owe over the next 2, 3, 4 years. And then you're still in good standing with the IRS while you do this. There are a lot of options.
Sounds like
no
it.
one knows bankruptcy wipes out IRS debt. Did you know that?
nope, but you did.
I sure did. It's an important concept that you should know. So my biggest advice to you is if you haven't filed returns or you owe money to the IRS, don't bury your head in the sand. Do something about it. But please don't think there's nothing you can do, because there are so many options out there for you. Happy to talk to you about it again. 321-282-1055. See? I like you asked questions today. You were interactive. I really love the show today.
Oh, good. I'm so glad. Thank God.
You did a great job today. Here's what we will do. One last quick break. We will return with What Did We Learn? Hurricane season definitely upon us, and we all think, oh, we'll go to the grocery store and get some water bottles and some paper towels, but there's something important in your house right now that is very important when it comes to hurricane season, and that is your windows. Dan Brigman is here. Renewal by Andersen. Dan, you think about sitting around during a hurricane party or when you're getting through a hurricane with your family, playing a game or whatever you're doing, and when those winds really start to pick up and you start hearing those windows vibrating, that gets scary. Why don't we think about windows when we think about hurricane prep?
You're absolutely right, Justin. It does get a little nerve-wracking. And one of the reasons we don't is because, you know, when we think about windows, we think about energy savings. We think about, hey, does the thing go up and down? Are there bugs coming in? Is there any water around my windows? And things like that. We don't think about that, you know, an 80, 90 mile an hour wind is enough wind to send something through that window. If you're sitting in there playing Monopoly, send it through the window, hit you, and end of story.
It's not a good thing at all. I put the QR code on the screen right now. Dan has a very special gift for you in preparation for hurricane season to help protect your family by changing and upgrading your windows. Dan, for these people at home, what are you going to do?
Well, I can tell you this, it will not happen again before hurricane season, which we're already in, right? And so it's 20% off of anything and everything that we sell. So that's our windows and our doors. And so get it while you can.
I appreciate it very much, Dan. Great to see you. You will appreciate Renewal by Andersen, I assure you that. This is free, by the way. Hit the QR code on the screen or call the phone number right now. Totally free consultation with their design consultant. Call Renewal by Andersen today. And we wrap it up today with What Did We Learn? Makaila Nichols, what did you learn?
I mean, I already knew John was very impressive, but like he totally knocked it out of the park, and I learned a lot from that whole conversation.
The G-Wagon example was really, not that everyone wants a G-Wagon or I even want a G-Wagon, but it really drove home how important tax savings really is.
Yeah.
I get very concerned for people who invest with advisors who don't even talk about saving in taxes. That's pretty crazy, huh?
Yeah.
What else did you learn about my monologue?
I mean, I learned that you still talk a lot.
Oh, yes.
No, I think it's incredible the options that people have if they're dealing with IRS debt. Because I mean, I'm personally scared of the IRS. Like I think we all are. And we want to make sure we don't get behind.
I thought it was
but
really.
you can help them.
Yes, we can. I thought it was very awesome of John to give this free advice to the first 5 people.
Oh yeah, I know. They should sign up right now.
Makaila Nichols, wonderful job as always. I'll see you again next week. Thank you for joining us this weekend. We'll see you again next week for more Behind the Law. I bought a new house the other day. I was so excited. I could not wait to move in, and I did move in. Bad thing happened though. 2 days later, the air conditioning unit totally went out. I was shocked. I spent all this money on the house already.
Dang.
Now I have to replace the air conditioning unit. It was terrible. But then I remember we had Old Ash on the show. Remember them?
Yes. How could I forget?
They were talking about Duquesne and Duquesne air conditioning units. I had never really heard of Duquesne before in the air conditioning world, but I said I need to figure out more about Duquesne. Thank goodness I did.
Yeah, Duquesne's awesome. Duquesne offers you an award-winning product instead of being a simple air conditioner. This brand is designed to bring comfort to your home no matter how hot it is outside. And let's be honest, in Florida, it gets hot.
It was hot in my house.
I'm sure. When I think Duquesne, I know I chose a quality product. It has durability, energy efficiency, energy savings, and a ton of value for my hard-earned money. Duquesne's OmniGuard Total Corrosion Protection technology protects your unit from deterioration. If you're looking to invest in your home,
Like
this
I
product,
did. Like I did. I mean, I was investing in my home, of course.
Great. Well, this product is for you.
And I would recommend if you're investing in your own home, tell your contractor today to ask for Duquesne. I'm attorney Justin Clark. If you've been threatened by the IRS and are feeling scared, call me now or visit youhavepower.com.
The proceeding was a paid advertisement. The views expressed were the sole responsibility of the advertiser.